How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the Blue Shifting and welcome back to Chaos Head. So, last episode, pretty big bombs were dropped. We saw Sena's past about how her mom was like a test subject, how she took care of a corpse of a child for like 2 years, and then when she was able to see what it was, her mind shattered. Sena was watching as that happened and was taken away. Her dad was broken by the events of what had occurred, and he became a bum. And Sena wants to get revenge on him. Then we just casually find out that not only is Takumi apparently a manifest delusion, he's a manifest delusion probably of the real Takumi, who's Shogun, an ailing, almost corpse in a hospital, who apparently, when Taku has a delusion, it slowly saps life force from the real Taku. So yeah, weird. And apparently Shogun wants Taku to get himself a D-sword. I don't know why. My running theory is that the real Takumi, is... I think he's decided that his life is A, not worth living, and B, is about to end. For whatever reason, creating his own like a delusion of himself about a year and a half ago was the right decision. And I'm wondering if the reason why he wants to give his delusion a D-sword, because it can manifest like D-swords give you the ability to manifest delusions into reality. I think he wants to give Taku a D-sword so that he can kind of maintain delusions, including himself, after like his source, like the real Taku, dies. Like that Taku's decided that he's done. But he also understands like fairly intimately how all this stuff works now. And so I think he's pushing Taku to be so afraid because he knows that's where it will draw out the D-sword. So he's essentially trying to force him to take up the D-sword. And Rimi, for some reason, despite being apparently an ally and fond of Taku, is also resisting this plan for some reason. I don't know why. Like, that's not been very clear yet. Besides the fact that I think that she's worried about the real Taku dying. Like, apparently, I think she's a friend of the real Taku. They were childhood friends from grade school, and that she then naturally was drawn to this like realized Taku, who was her friend if her friend hadn't been taken away and forced into like working on the IR2 and the NOAA program. So yeah, it's really convoluted but very fascinating. But we've also saw Ban and Yua kind of like investigating. And so Ban had this weird thing where they talked about like the group stalking or whatever it was called, like gang stalking. And I talked about how like that could be real, but like people even point out in the comments that like anytime people try to like prove it's a real thing, like it usually just seems delusional. Makes you wonder though, because it feels like it would be a good tactic. Maybe like an operative type of tactic you could use, like if you had like members of the CIA target somebody and like purposely try and make them feel like they're constantly like make them paranoid. But the other part about it that someone pointed out was the fact that like if you notice, every conversation that was bothering him kept repeating the word ban and ban in some way, like bam bam with the gun or bang bang ban. Or like some of the conversations people were having, and people were saying that like this has actually been happening for several episodes now, which is really interesting. So I'll pay attention more to that, but interesting that you pointed that out. So thank you. Just because that is really contextually very strange, very interesting. But yeah, so we're going to jump in today. I'm not sure what to expect. I feel like with such a big bombshell being dropped, they're probably going to just focus a bit more on lore because it feels like we need to breathe and kind of become familiar and maybe like comfortable, I'd say, or at least like as readers, we need to be able to kind of settle in on all these revelations that were just made. So I imagine this will be a bit more of a chill episode. Well, chill as this kind of game can be. I'm sure it'll still be crazy, but in different ways. So anyway, enough rambling. I've done that for too long. Let's go. So, Mama G, there's a new one, another oddball I see. Momose smiled as she stared fixedly at a Garo Froggy keychain Ban had just purchased.
でも可愛いじゃない? そりゃ新作じゃねえよ。先週出たなんだっけ。
Ben glanced over at Yua as if pleading for help.
涙目ゲロカエルンです。
The teary girl froggy?
ああ、そうそれ。
ごめんね、ゆあちゃん。こんなむさ苦しいおじさんに付き合わされて大変だったでしょう。
いえ。
ひでえな、ももちゃん。こんなダンディーな中年はなかなかいねえぜ。
With Ban's half-joking protest falling on deaf ears, the president of Frieza served Yua some tea. Heaving a deep sigh, Ban sat down in the chair and glanced around the office. Employees of Frieza, who usually worked well into the night, had actually returned home on time today. Each worker's schedule was arranged to tell this exact tale on the whiteboard. Thanks to their departures, despite the sun having only just set, the office was completely silent, as if it was the dead of night.
で、ももちゃん、進行のこと調べてくれたかい？
Before riding the train from Shinjuku, Ben had called Momose in advance to ask her to look into FaithWorks.
その前に
Smile still on her face, Momose glanced over at Yua, who was sipping from her teacup.
ゆあちゃん、お茶を飲んだら帰った方がいいわ。
I mean, she wants to help, but it is late.
日も暮れたし、ご両親が心配するでしょ。
Oh. Remember though, her parents, they're weirdly detached to her, so they probably wouldn't even notice, which is sad. Yua realized what the intent behind Momose's words were. Whatever the conversation that would soon take place, it was not meant for Yua's ears.
私のこと心配してくれているんですか？
ええ、そうよ。
Momose nodded with a serious look on her face. Although thankful for her consideration, Yua shook her head definitively in response.
私、帰りません。みやちゃんの死の真相に近づくためなら、何だってするつもりです。
That's fair.
あなたはこれ以上関わるべきじゃないわ。
Yeah, I think what she learned is actually like dangerous. As in, like, she's probably realized, like, as she looked into it, that other people who have looked into this have had their careers fall apart or have suddenly vanished or left the country for inexplicable reasons. So she's like, hey, just knowing this could become a bit dangerous.
私もとっくに当事者の一人です。
That's fair. Also, Yua's got really good points here. An imposing, unwavering resolve dwelt within Yua's words. Momose, who was perplexed at the unexpected opposition.
意外と頑固ね。
ま、ここでのけ者にするのも酷ってもんだろ。いざとなったら警察で保護するさ。
Momose was forced to sigh in response to Ban's nonchalant attitude.
バンちゃんにそんな権力があるのかしらね。
ま、こう見えても一応天下の警視庁捜査一課所属だからな。
Oh, is that because like the whole like they get 95% conviction rate, which actually says more about the legal system than it does about the people who work it?
あら、そう。
Upon pacifying Ban to a suitable degree, Momose stared intently at Yua.
これから聞くことは絶対に口外しちゃダメよ。これはあなたの命にも関わることだから、それを肝に銘じてね。
I think it's actually kind of funny because I've been rereading one of my favorite series, which is the Dresden Files. Really good books, just fantastic. Imagine, so it's the study of like a modern mystery novels, like set in modern times, but involves magic. So it's like there's an underworld of magic, like the Fae and demons and angels and wizards who are humans who can wield the forces of magic, and they have this whole and there's vampires and werewolves and all that stuff. So it all exists, and it's about this world where Harry Dresden, a wizard, is an investigator. He uses his powers to try and help people. He kind of dips his toe across the line where he's willing to be open about his practice as a wizard, even if people don't take him seriously, because the magical world is in these series, like the magical world, magical stuff happens all the time. People see it all the time, but we're on a collective denial because it's too terrifying to accept that it's real. And it's really, really good. such a good series. I'm just working my way back through it because it's been a while since I read it, but I like the series enough. I just wanted to get back and re-immerse myself in it. And he said something in the book Changes that he's at that I've just starting again. And there's a whole sequence in there. I know it's a tangent, but bear with me. There's a sequence in there where he talks about how he struggled with this idea of like knowing things that can get people hurt or can terrify them. That like knowing that there are monsters out there that want to kill you is going to make your life harder and make it harder to sleep, going to make you make you feel less safe. And it talks about how in his early books he really resisted telling people too much because he knew and he felt that all it would do is get them caught up in trouble. It'd make their lives more dangerous, and that they would be more unhappy knowing that the monsters are out there, and that in many cases they can't do anything about them. Because unless, like, a wizard has the ability to fight back, normal people really don't have much recourse when facing a vampire. A good example. But in this Changes book, he has a monologue where he talks about how like the character has changed throughout all the books so far. And he talks about how he found that although he tried to protect his friends by keeping like them out of the loop, a lot of times these monsters still inflicted harm. He even saw people die because they didn't know that there was even a danger or the nature of the danger. But then on the other hand, he also said that he told people things and got them involved that then led them into being in situations that did lead them to dying and causing them harm and like really bad trauma. And so he gets torn on this because it's like, I feel like if you tell people, it can get them hurt. And if you don't tell people, it can get them hurt. And so he comes to this conclusion that says like, look, information isn't inherently dangerous. It's what you do or don't do because or without it that matters. And most of us, he says him, but I'd say all of us, are very unlikely to be wise enough to really know all the time when information is going to be helpful or negative. So his default that I really approved of was that once people are old enough to be making their own decisions, maybe, Yua's not an adult yet, but she's getting close and she's learning and can think for herself. She's got a vested interest in these matters as well. And his opinion was that if they're going to be involved and they have like stakes in it somehow, even if they seem marginal, even if they don't feel like they should be stakes, if they've got stakes in it, you should trust them enough to let them make their own decision about it. You give them information, you warn them of the risk, and then if they choose to proceed anyway, you do your best to help them. But you don't deny them that option because A, they might decide to move forward without your information, which could become infinitely more dangerous, and B, you're disrespecting their ability to make choices by preventing them from doing so. So I think Yua should be brought into the loop since she's got this drive. Yeah, she needs to make that choice. So Momose doing this right now, you need to understand this is beyond just like academic. This is beyond even criminal. This is life and death. You need to know that. Will you accept the consequences? And I think Yua, despite being in school, is mature enough to make at least that much of a choice.
Hi.
Yua nodded, her expression far stiffer than before. Upon seeing that, Momose sighed once more and then proceeded to take a seat. Also explains though, this information was so sensitive, she cleared her own office purposefully on schedules, made sure everyone was out. Momose, hunching her already round body forward, operating the mouse connected to her laptop.
で、進行から何が出たんだい？
バンちゃんの予感的中って感じね。
Oh no. Both Ban and Yua appeared at the monitor from behind Momose. Nozomi.
NewGen 会社新興の親会社は Nozomi テクノロジーよ。
Yeah, so look at that. FaithWorks Limited, its parent company is Nozomi Technology. But look at Nozomi Technology Group, NOAA Organization of Medical Instruments. But look at the capitalization here. Nozomi. Nozomi. That's what Nozomi stands for. The NOAA Organization of Medical Instruments. Though it's really funny to see they like had to stretch, but I guess Numi sounds a little too like fluffy. Nozomi makes more sense, which is why they went for the Z in the middle. Also, it could be for Japanese lettering. Numi, like ooh, like it sounds weird, and maybe Numi means something completely different. They wanted to make their own word, and I think Zo is a like there's a character for Zo, so Nozomi, like that sounds like a word, and Numi, if it is a word in Japanese, probably means something really fluffy or really like not terrifying in any way. And so they added the Z to make it sound more interesting. But in order to get like the acronym to work in the English version, at least, they had to capitalize the Z in organization, which like looks really funny. For the sake of the next generation. Interesting.
Nozomi Technology?
Nozomi グループか。こいつは驚きだな。
Oh, so he's heard of them. Hey, it's me, Ghetto.
新興は5年前にのぞみグループに吸収合併されたんだけど、それ以降発売した商品が次々と大ヒットしてるのよ。
Interesting. So they merged, and after that, they became like FaithWorks became a lot more successful. Click here for more accessories, plushies, and bargains. We're exploding with froggies. Check out the latest sales, snatch them all up. Spend 5,000 yen for free shipping. Info sites. Popular items are hopping off the shelves. Girl froggies. Is there anyone out there who doesn't know about this incredibly popular, ugly, cute character? We're selling merchandise for them, the Girl Froggy. We pay special attention to make sure their unique expression comes to life in our merchandise. Join the craze. Get yourself a Girl Froggy today. So here's the list. So specials: Girl Froggy, fatty Girl Froggy, rugged Girl Froggy, smooth Girl Froggy, shiny Girl Froggy, cat Girl Froggy. Why cat? LTD ED Girl Froggy. Does that mean it lights up? Spooky Ghetto Froggy, Sleepy Ghetto Froggy, Burning Zombie Ghetto Froggy, Newest Froggy, Super Cheap, Drunk Ghetto Froggy, and Goggling Ghetto Froggy. Is like, but is that like supposed to be like is Goggles like this the off-brand version of Google? So that'd be like a frog on a computer maybe. But yeah, like drunk, burning. That seems super weird. Gotta love this old style. Like, I say old style, but from what I understand, a lot of Japanese websites still actually look a lot like this.
ゲロカイルンだけじゃないの。中国製バッグとか、タイ製のエコバッグとか、美脚パンツとか。
Did I read the last line? 5 years ago, FaithWorks merged into the Nozomi group, and from that point forward, they became a big hit. Okay. So it's Girl Froggy's handbags, shopping bags, sleek-looking pants, so on.
で、この会社は商品の売り出し方が独特なの。いつも週末に新製品を一斉に投入するのよ。
Weekends. That word stuck out especially to Ban.
G レートとの関係は？
必然にしろ偶然にしろ、新興の商品がヒットしているのは G レートの変動の影響ね。それは確かよ。
The big hit thanks to the fluctuations. So like the question becomes like, are the GE rates going up because the sales are on the weekend, or are the sales on the weekend because that's when GE rates are going up? What's cause and effect here? The GE rates being fluctuated and being consistently so makes it feel like that's what Nozomi is doing. Like they are manipulating the GE rates, which again explains the earthquake and the big flash.
前に見せた GE レートのグラフ覚えてる？
Yeah.
5年ぐらい前からずっと毎週末に値が上がってるって言ったわよね。新興がのぞみグループに合併された時期とぴったり一致するわ。
Interesting. So maybe the two groups had like halves of an equation or halves of a truth that together formed what the current Nozomi group activities is producing. Like all these, the NOAH program is basically the combination of two. And in fact, NOAH, like I'm sure it's an acronym, but it's also a reference to a biblical character, biblical person. So maybe that's kind of one of like another sign about like this FaithWorks and the Nozomi group merging together, is they're combining science and faith in a way, or at least philosophical approach wise, they're combining the two.
新興がレートを操作してると思うか？
新興自体はそんなに大きな会社じゃないから、それは無理よ。
They're probably a shell company, a front for what Nozomi really wants to do, but trying to make it so that it's obscuring how associated they are.
となると親会社のぞみが怪しいな。グループ総出で取り組めばレート操作だってできそうじゃねえか。
待って、のぞみの方はもちろんだけど、信仰が興味深いのはそこだけじゃないの。設立当初の資料にまで遡ってみたら、すごい大物が出てきたのよ。
大物？
A very particular person.
井ノ原幸三。
はっは、明和党の重鎮じゃねえの。
Oh, right.
信仰設立当時はまだ民自党在籍時代だけどね。
つながってきたな。太田教授の時、それとこの前の地震の時、明和党は G レートに関係ありそうな件について報道規制の圧力をかけてきてる。
Interesting.
G レートのグラフのことだけど、いろいろ調べてたら他にも面白いパターンを見つけたわ。
Okay. As of now, there were two aspects about the GE race someone must say I had attention on. First, the fact that they consistently rose each and every weekend. The maximum values themselves are not particularly notable, but aside from New Year's, Golden Week, and Bond Festival, they always went up without fail. And second, the drastic rise following earthquakes. For both the quake 2 months ago, and in which there were 8 fatalities, and the quake 1 week ago, in which there were more than 100 fatalities, the GE rate had shown an extreme upsurge for a short period of time.
で、3つ目のパターン。この5年で4回だけ起きてるわ。時期はどれもまちまち。上昇値は地震の時ほどじゃないけど、結構高いの。
Okay. So there's some spikes that happened irregularly.
最初はこれが何を意味してるのかわからなかったんだけど、調べていくうちにこの5年で4回と符合するイベントに行き着いた。
4 times over 5 years. Well, I mean, my first expectation would be a holiday, but she mentioned holidays already, and she said it was inconsistent and not apparent. Then that wouldn't be that easy. So what happened 4 times over 5 years? Could those maybe be lunar eclipse? Lunar eclipses are fairly common, not super common, but common enough that you might be able to track an occurrence of 4 of them over 5 years.
イベント。
もったいぶらずに教えろよ。
選挙よ。
Elections. Oh.
衆参合わせて4度行われた選挙日と、その4回の GE レート上昇の日は完全に同じだったわ。
That's interesting. Ben stroked his unshaven chin with a stern look on his face. Because think about it, an election. Oh, the election tampering. Because, like, okay, that's not been a hot button topic for a while now, but think about this. Remember, the whole point about this NOAA device and the NOAA abilities is it changes your perceptions, right? So all you have to do is change the way you see the ballots, whether they be paper or electronic. You're not actually messing with the ballots or the computers. There's no data trail or no leak. But if people who are going into the voting booth, if you know what they want to vote for, and you just alter the perception of like the buttons that they would push or the things that the bubbles they would fill out to make it so that they think they're voting for one thing, but they're actually voting for another. Something that they would never recognize because they immediately turn in the ballot and they never see it again. They would eventually you could have an election where it would seem like a specific person wins. You obviously would want to do it by a narrow margin to make it look legit, but you make sure that your person wins because you can make sure that enough votes are going to reflect what you want, and there can't be a paper trail of fraud. That's horrifying. Holy crap.
野党だった明和党が大躍進を遂げて与党になった選挙は
4年前ですね。
Yep.
そして井ノ原幸三が民自党を電撃的に離党して明和党に移ったのは5年前。
Right. Yeah, no, that stinks. A heavy silence hung in the air around the three of them. Death of democracy right there.
なんだか私、お話を聞いていたら、 怖くなってきました。
Yeah, no, it's beyond frightening. It implies that they've not only been able to manipulate things that they basically undercut a democratic process and undercutting the will of the people, but they've been doing it long enough that they likely have been able to do this up and down the entire chain, like from judges and like local leaders all the way to the top. Yua's voice trembled slightly as she murmured.
私もびっくりだわ。ここまでキーワードがぴったり当てはまるなんてね。
まだ状況証拠でしかないがな。それでも G レートのことを知っていたからこそ気づけたわけだ。知らなかったらさっぱりだったろ。
Yeah. As he said that, Ben nonchalantly retrieved his favorite handheld fan and began waving it at himself.
ところで、俺が調べた女子高生の生態について話していいかい？
Huh, that's an abrupt change. Momose, bewildered by Ben's sudden change of topic, stared daggers at the detective.
ね、いきなりそんなくだらないこと言い出すんじゃないわよ。ユアちゃんがいるんだから少しは考えなさい。
She thinks he's just being a pervert.
ねえ、そういうなって。
A slight smirk colored Ben's face, but his eyes did not match the sentiment.
青いセナについてだ。
Sena.
正しくは畑のセナと言うべきか。なぜか最近になって母親の旧姓を使い始めたんだよな。
Oh, interesting. Yeah. As in, she probably started using it as soon as she saw what happened to her mom, and like, basically she disowned her father. Aoi Sena.
その畑のセナの父親、畑野一世は今失踪して行方不明らしいんだが、のぞみテクノロジーの元社員なんだよ。
Oh, Hatano. Okay, so Aoi is the mother's maiden name, which I personally like better. Hatano is her dad.
どういうこと？
どういうことも何も、そのまんまさ。
Nozomi Technology was a company that primarily developed software for use in medical equipment. The Nozomi Group had begun with Nozomi Technology, but through repeated mergers and acquisitions, had become one of Japan's top leading conglomerates.
半年前、畑野セナの母親と生後1年の妹が謎の死を遂げている。
Right.
父親の失踪はその直後だ。畑野セナ本人もそれと前後して当時預けられていたとある施設を脱走するって騒ぎを起こした。
Right. Interesting. But it's not like she's like hiding. I wonder why she's been allowed to stay away.
施設ですか？
天神寮っていう非営利の自立更生支援施設だ。表向きはな。
Uh-huh.
表向きってじゃあ裏があるの？
スポンサーがいるのさ。これが天聖振興会だったりする。
Okay, Cosmic Church of Divine Light. I was wondering when they would come up because we haven't heard much besides like a name drop occasionally of them. So who are they?
天聖振興会。
Momose grimaced at those words. Then she spoke once more, her tone not clearly exasperated. Now, okay, here's the thing I wonder. So I believe this is like supposed to be a reference to the really kind of very culty, very like zealous group. In fact, didn't they recently, wasn't that the group that was behind that assassination of the former prime minister in Japan? Like literally recently. It was a religious group that was behind that. At least the member was. And I believe he noted his faith as a reason. They are, if I remember correctly, at least this group, maybe there's multiple groups, so it's easy to mix up because again, I'm not involved in the culture very, like personally. But from what I understand, the group has like been very like they're very aggressive and very not just like, oh, we're talking to you about our religion. They do that a lot, but they're also very like politically aggressive and borderline psychotic at times. And so I don't know if that's actually that organization being name dropped here, or if this is a name that's similar that's meant to imply that it's based on that, kind of like how Gaggle instead of Google, kind of a thing.
また面倒な名前が出てきたわね。
ちなみにその天神寮は2年前まで別の名前だった。
Oh, is it going to be that asylum that Ayase was at?
アークハートメディカル会。
Yeah.
どんな偶然か、今や渋谷の若者のカリスマ的存在であるフェス。岸本綾瀬もここに入れられていたんだな。
Yeah.
畑野セナとは入れ違いだったみてえだが。
Ban then leaned forward towards Momose and Yua.
でだ。ここからが興味深いんだが。アークハートメディカル会は天神寮と違ってメンタルケア施設だった。精神病患者を治療してたんだ。ところが2年前、アークハートメディカル会は突然非営利団体の自立更生支援施設、
Oh, I keep clicking.
天神寮へと姿を変えた。それによって精神科医が一斉に解雇されたんだが、その医師たちを丸ごと雇い入れたのが代々木にある AH 東京総合病院だ。
Oh my gosh. And that would make sense. So they all went to the hospital, maybe because they followed Tenoji there? Or I think there's going to be a connection to like why all the doctors suddenly left around the same time that the real Shogun is now at the hospital. Like that happened about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, and that's also around the time that Taku was created. All these dominoes fall into place.
ノータリン事件で殺された人が勤めていたのってそこの病院でしたよね。
Yeah, I was gonna say I didn't say this, but I was just about to say because I was like trying to formulate it in my head. But yeah, the doctor that Taku really liked also probably worked there.
ああ、高階文夫。確かに AH 東京総合病院の精神科医だ。
It's all connected.
ついでに言うと、そこの病院長は井ノ原と懇意らしいぜ。
また井ノ原議員ね。
ゆあちゃん、君が追ってた西条匠も実は AH 東京総合病院をこの1ヶ月で3回訪れてる。
Yep.
そうなんですか？
警察がずっと尾行してたんでね。
Of course they were.
しかも西条には数年前にその病院に入院した記録まであった。彼の主治医は高階文夫だ。
Yep.
不思議なのは西条の入院記録なんだよな。彼は10歳で入院して約2年後にその記録が途切れてるんだが、
Yeah.
退院した記録はなかった。
Yeah, there it is. Because Taku's actually still there, and the kid at school isn't a real one. So weird.
誰かが改ざんしたのかしら。
どうだかな。そこまでは調べが回らなくてね。ああ、それと畑野セナに関してもう一つ。最近彼女がよく行動を共にしている折原梢って生徒がいる。1ヶ月ほど前に転校してきた西条のクラスメートなんだが。
It's all like they're all connected. All the lines are pulled together. You sound like a madman now, but it works. It makes sense.
こんな曰くつきなんだ。
Oh yeah.
折原の父親がのぞみグループの系列会社社員なわ。
Oh my gosh.
元は広島の方に住んでてな。折原梢の同級生3人が何者かに襲われて重傷を負うって事件が起きてる。3人ともが右腕を鋭利な刃物で切断されてひどいありさまだったらしい。
Oh my gosh.
折原もその場に居合わせていた。彼女が犯人じゃねえかって疑いがかかったんだが、凶器が存在しないって理由で逮捕はされてない。
Didn't exist. Like, I don't understand, like, couldn't be found. It didn't exist. And, like, that's the thing, is, like, the people she attacked, they really were like, she attacked him, but it's like, you look at her, she probably was, like, shorter than them, frailer than them. It's like, how would she even lop someone's arm off if she had an appropriate weapon? If you're thinking in, like, like normal physical terms, that would be, like, a really sharp chopping axe or a chainsaw or something, except they wouldn't cut as cleanly. Still, it'd be like, she couldn't wield those weapons properly enough. So what weapon could she wield that could do that kind of damage? Nothing. It doesn't make any sense. They can't find a weapon, and they can't even match it, the cuts in the flesh to anything that exists because it doesn't exist. Dang.
それで地元に居づらくなって引っ越したって噂もある。
凶器が存在しない？見つからないじゃなくて？
Yeah, exactly.
ああ、存在しないだ。
Yep.
何で切られたのかさえ分かってない。
Yeah, and like that's what they mean. Is that like they're saying it didn't exist because like they're through all their data banks and through all their research, they looked at the way that the wounds were given, and there's just nothing that could have done that they know of. I imagine that the flesh and the bone were cut like perfectly cut, yet they don't display any signs of crushing. Because a good example of something that could do that would be a train. Imagine a train, like the way that the wheels are shaped. If your arm was across the tracks and it rolled over, it would perfectly cut your arm off. But it would partially crush the muscle and bone on the way. Because it doesn't, like, it's not like scalpel sharp. So it wouldn't be able to cut without having some resistance. So it would be a crushing cut. But at the same time, I say scalpel sharp, but the scalpel, part of why it works is because it's sharpened really, really, really well. But it can't be too big, and it loses that edge fairly quickly. So being able to go straight through a limb, especially through bone, not going to work. It just doesn't have the mass to be able to do that. The combination of having something that's sharp enough and hefty enough to do a clean cut like that would probably be like a professional old-time sword. Think perfectly cut and perfectly sharpened katana. Probably could lop off an arm. But even then, it would have some striations. It would probably struggle to get through bone, but if it could get through bone somehow, it would be in a way that would be consistent with a blade. It's not a perfect cut, as if like it just separated the two, like they were never connected to begin with. That's what a D sword probably does.
犯行は折原以外には実行できない状況だった。だが、たとえ折原が犯人だとしても、凶器をどこからか取り出すことも、どこかに隠すことも不可能だった。
Yeah, or wield. I still think wield it. Like, look at how ridiculous it looks like that she's like carrying the weapon. It's because no human, even a strong human, could struggle to hold that properly, let alone use it.
かまいたち現象じゃないかなんて本気で議論されたぐらいだ。
Kamaichi? Kamatachi? I don't know what that is.
何もないところから剣を取り出す手品。
Oh, okay.
かもしれねえな。
君が悪いです。
Feels wrong? I actually know. I would describe it as it feels right, but it feels impossible. Yua, as if trying to stop herself from trembling, hunched down toward her knees and began to stroke both her arms with her hands.
何かとても大きな意志が働いているような。
That's a good way to phrase it.
職業柄俺は陰謀論なんざ信じちゃいねえんだが、今回ばかりはその存在を信じそうになるね。明和と、そしてのぞみグループ、G レートに関係してると思われるのはその2つか。
天聖振興会も叩けば埃が出てきそうね。もともとあまりいい噂は聞かないし。
Slipping some of her team, Omase shrugged her shoulders.
バンちゃんには呆れるわ。本来の仕事をほったらかしにしてこんなことを調べてたなんて。
元はといえばももちゃんが G レートのことを教えてくれたのがいけないんだぜ。
そうだけど、それで捜査本部から外されちゃったら世話ないわ。本当に不器用なんだから、あんたって人は。
Those words were neither those of admonishment nor of commendation, but rather a fairly roundabout way of praising him. Omase, despite her words, acknowledged... Fetch! I keep clicking wrong! Acknowledged Ban and his pursuits. Oh. Is this Sua?
電話だ。
Ban's cell phone let out an electronic tune. Looking at the display, he saw that the caller was a restricted number.
もしもし。
Loud static could be heard from the other end of the call. Ban took the phone away from his ear and looked at the display once more. His connection was good, so he was likely not the issue. Must have been the caller causing the problem. Ban brought his ear close to the phone, believing that the call was coming from someplace far away.
おい、誰だ?
Ah, Shogun. This was one of the anonymous threatening phone calls he had been receiving recently. The mechanical sounding voice was likely due to the use of a voice changer. Ban let out an audible laugh before proceeding to answer.
ああ、あんたか。いい加減名乗ってくんねえかな。手を引けって言われてもな。そもそも何から手を引きゃいいんだ？そこを具体的に言ってもらわねえと。
That's clever. He's trying to get it, like trying to coax out just little bits of information. They always hung up there. After saying back off twice, the pattern repeated itself so often it was practically routine. No matter how much Ban tried to speak to them, there would never an answer. But on this day, there would finally change. Oh?
Huh?
Senpai. Oh, Sua.
誰だ?
Upon hearing that, Ban finally understood whose distressed voice was on the other end of the call.
諏訪か? 誰にやられた? 今どこにいる?
わからないっす。黒い目出し帽って。
相手は一人なんだな。
Just one?
おい、大丈夫なのか?
助けて。先輩、自分は英知と。
諏訪、おい、諏訪!
He's at the hospital. No matter how much Ban tried to call out to him, there's no response from the other end of the call. With a click of his tongue, Ban hung up. Momose and Yua were looking at Ban with intense concern.
諏訪ちゃんに何かあったの?
Ban stood up, then lightly slapped his cheeks twice.
諏訪が人質に取られた。どうやら AH 東京総合病院にいるみてえだ。
まさか名和と？
ああ、わかんねえが。このままじゃまずい気がする。
Yeah.
応援を頼んだ方がいいわ。
大ごとにしたらそれこそ諏訪の命はねえよ。俺一人で様子を見てくる。
I don't know if that's a good idea. Ban placed his favorite handheld fan on top of the table, close to where Momose's hand rested. Following this, he took a good long look at each of the girls. His demeanor was like that of an entirely different person's. The unreliable middle-aged detective that he'd so often played was nowhere to be seen, although his now was an intense, fearless expression on his face.
ももちゃんとゆあちゃんもどこかに身を隠せ。わかったな。
Yeah. If they're watching him, they might know that you're involved, so you need to go take care of yourselves. This is gonna get bad. Through no will of my own, my legs moved in the direction of my base. They were heavy, so heavy, in fact, I wondered if my heels were packed with lead. Except it wasn't just my legs, my entire body felt heavy. But despite how hard it was to move, I kept telling myself that it was proof that my body existed. I wasn't a delusionary existence. The sun had already set, meaning there was no one in the city to pay any attention to me as I staggered through the streets. Before now, I would push everyone away, telling them not to look at me. I was scared of getting too much attention, of being a laughingstock. But even though I'd done that for so long, right now I just wanted anyone to look at me. I wanted someone to see me with their eyes. I wanted someone to acknowledge that I was here, that I was the deus ex machina I needed. Then no one did. If I randomly yelled out something, I'd probably get looks of disdain, but I didn't have the willpower to go through with that. Within my sweaty hands was my cell phone, the one I'd gone out to buy with Nozomi. I only had 4 numbers registered on it. Rimi's cell phone, Nozomi's cell phone, Misumu-kun's cell phone, and the number from my parents' house. I tried desperately to think of a way to prove I wasn't fake with just those 4 phone numbers.
あなたは妄想の存在なんだよ。
So, what happens when we call our parents? No. I wasn't a delusionary existence. I was real. I was Nishijo Takumi. I was 17 years old. I was a second year at Suime Academy. I was a family of 4. I was
助けて。僕を証明して。
My teeth were chattering. A clearly audible clacking sound. I wasn't cold whatsoever, and yet I trembled all the same.
助けてよ。
From the 4 numbers I had, I chose Misumi-kun's.
Hi.
ミス。
ダークだろ？どうしたんだ？リミとうまいこと言ったか？ちゃんと童貞卒業できたんだろうな。感謝しろよ。気を使って2人にしてやったんだからよ。
Misumi-kun was the same as ever. At least that brought some relief. He did know me. He recognized me as Nishijo Takumi. So I wasn't a delusionary existence. Rimi had just been lying. I knew it.
そういえば、ついさっき美奈子から言われたんだけどよ。
Who's that?
美奈子。
ああ、俺の女。
Oh, yeah, I was wondering if she existed. Minako.
美奈子が言うんだよ。ここ1ヶ月ぐらい、日常と急に仲良くなったけど、なんでって。こいつ何言ってんだって最初は思ったんだけど。
Yeah.
そもそも俺、普通だったらお前みたいなやつとは絶対関わろうとしねえんだよな。リミを通して知り合ったってのは、なんとなく記憶にあるんだけどよ。細かいことはなぜか思い出せねえんだよな。
Oh, crap. This isn't what we wanted. It was the same. It was the same situation I'd experienced earlier. Stop it. I don't want this. Don't say anything else, please. You could have just talked about girls like you always do, so why, today of all days, did you have to...
お前さ、いつ俺とダチになったんだっけ？
He just hung up. Yeah, I mean, he's sick. Like, okay. In his defense, oh man, I don't like this now, actually, because I just realized, so probably my closest friend from school, like to this day, I remember how we met. I can't ever figure out how I become friends with people because it feels like it just happens. Like we meet and it just, something just falls into place. And the next thing I know, we're spending time together all the time. But for my closest friend throughout school, we met in middle school. And I remember specifically how it happened. We rode on the same bus to school. And I sat down, and this one day in the fall of our, first year in middle school, I was sitting by myself. It was an open spot, so he sat down next to me. On the way to school, we went from just kind of sitting there to I can't remember who started the conversation. I think it was him, though. He asked me if I played Halo. And I was like, yeah, I love Halo. And we just started talking about it. And then after that, we would just end up sitting next to each other or near each other on the bus, and we'd talk about video games and other things we liked. And then I assume it just went from there. I think we had a couple classes together, and so we would hang out, we gravitated towards each other naturally. And then eventually he invited me over to his place, and I invited him over to my place, and that we were just friends. But the funny thing is that when since then, I remember specifically how it all started, but I've asked him, I was like, do you remember how we first met? And he is like, I have no idea. He's like, I don't recall exactly specifics. It just kind of was the thing. And it's kind of like this almost. It's like, when did we become friends? It's like, I remember. What does that mean? I got too freaked out, so I instantly hung up. I felt like I was about to cry, yet no tears came. I simply felt like my heart was being torn to shreds. Next, I decided to try calling home. Despite how hard my fingers were trembling, I somehow managed to select the number and press the call button. Nanami had registered this one. I hadn't put it in myself, so there's no doubt the call would go through. Considering what time it was, would my dad be home? Had my mom left already? Was Nanami there? Even if it did connect, what would I even say? Hey, I'm your son, right? They would probably think I was screwing with them, that I was being stupid, and in truth, it was a stupid question. What if they said no? What if they said our son Takumi's eating dinner with his sister in the living room? Oh, that'd be horrifying. What if the phone call was supposed to prove I was real, actually did the exact opposite? what if they asked, who are you? That's the thing. I almost could see the parents. Like, what if for some reason in this delusion that we are imprinted on Nanami because maybe original Taku missed and like treasured the bond he had with his sister. So like he kind of forced that bond. Like when he creates the delusion to like he and his sister are acquainted and care about each other. That he has a friend who's a guy and he has and he can be friends with Rimi, somebody who Taku cared about, but felt like he kind of abandoned. So like he kind of establishes those core as being part of the delusion, no matter how weird Taku ended up turning out to be. So this could be that thing where like either no one answers or they answer and they say something like, he's like, it's me, Taku. And they're like, don't joke about that because in their minds, they think he died a long time ago. Like Nozomi faked his death or something. As the negative thoughts continued to swell up in my mind, I grew more and more afraid. I didn't want to know the outcome. I was really scared and I couldn't control it. Felt like I was about to go insane. My breathing grew ragged. I could barely breathe anymore. Right then, the call connected. With the phone next to my ear, I prepared myself.
あなたがおかけになった電話番号は現在使われておりません。番号をご確認の上、もう一度おかけ直しください。
Not great right now. No one would prove that I was me. There's no one that could. I wanted to die. You gotta call Nanami. Raising my head, I noticed Yamanotodori in front of me with a lot of cars coming and going. Maybe it was for the best I died. There's no value in faking being alive. I was worthless. So he's down a dark path. Here's the thing. So it's interesting. Rimi said, don't delude anymore. It's dangerous. It's eroding away at the life force of the real Taku. But does that mean I shouldn't? I have good reason not to. I'm worried about his mental state right now, but at the same time, I feel like I think Rimi's right. I've thought since the beginning that these delusions can be kind of fun, but they might be more destructive or distracting than actual reality. Part of me wants to be boring because it makes more sense to not delude yourself. Even if a monster did try to live in this world, they just end up being persecuted. I had neither hopes nor dreams. My existence itself was repulsive to people. I wanted to be freed from all this. If I died, I'd be free. After all, there'd be no more need to think. There'd be nothing more to suffer from. There'd be no one to laugh at me. There'd be no one to betray me. I wanted nothingness. I brought my heavy legs one step forward. In this place, free of traffic lights, I staggered onto the road. I had a feeling that salvation awaited me there. A glaring brightness from the pair of headlights, the discordant noise of a car horn, the unnerving sound of squealing tires. Come on, kill me. Kill this fake me, this unsightly monster. Kill me. But no matter how long I waited, the impact never came. Okay. I opened my eyes. A car was stopped right in front of me. I was still standing on the road with my own 2 feet. The driver got out and started shouting at me about something. He shoved me as he kept on screaming. Why? I broke down crying then and there. Why won't anyone save me? Why won't anyone release me? Was a fake not even worth killing? That sucks. Ooh. Let's get a little bit of Rimi action. As Sakihata Rimi walked beneath the Shibuya station underpass, she took out her cell phone. She had walked straight here right after parting ways with Takumi. She then selected the number registered in her address book as Nana-chan and placed a call. They picked up on the very next moment.
私、実は、ちょっとした報告があります。ナナちゃんを、これから助けに行こうと思って。
Okay. Interesting. Nana-chan. Isn't that supposed to be Takumi's sister? Like, Rimi had an idea of where Nanami was being held, and as well as who had abducted her. A theory she had only come to because she had been in a similar situation herself once before. So wait, so she looked in her address book for Nana-chan, and so it says, "I have something to report. I think it's time we go and save Nana-chan now." Who are we calling? It was a past she wanted to forget, but it was one that she was ready to confront in order to rescue Nanami, no matter how steeped in darkness those memories may be. The reaction of whom she had called was exactly as Rimi predicted, leading her to inevitably start laughing.
私って信用されてないな。平気だってば。
Both her voice and expression were cheerful. Not an ounce of the grim resolve she carried could be felt. To an outside observer, it would simply look like she was having a fun, engaging conversation.
昔の話だしね。そもそも私の感情とナナちゃんを助けることとどっちを優先させるかなんて決まりきってることだよ。言ったでしょ。私はあなたの力になりたいって。
She's talking to the real Takumi, I think. And I think the idea is like to save Nanami. He has to the idea is Shogun is using Nanami as the motivation to have him take up his D sword. And so I think she's saying, you know, at this point, let's do it. I don't like that it's driving you closer to your death, but it might be time.
それにタクには関わらせたくないの。
As she said that, Rimi's expression clouded over.
ねえ。ちょっとだけ語っちゃっていいかな。
Okay, then maybe who is he talking to then?
タクにね、いろいろひどいこと言っちゃったんだ。
Right.
しかもそんなことしておいてすごく自分勝手なんだけど、私彼と一緒に過ごした時間はとっても楽しかったって思っちゃってるんだ。
So for whatever reason, she's going to be saying goodbye to the life that she had with him as his friend when this is all said and done, which might already be over, but she's like putting the nail in the coffin essentially.
何もかもが妄想でまみれたまやかしでしかなかったのに、学生生活もあの学校に私やタクが通ってることも、ライチンと友達だっていうことも、私がタクと一緒にいようとしたことも、タクの存在そのものも。
Little by little, Rimi's pace slowed. Multiple strangers passed her by.
タクってどうしようもないくらい情けなくて、どうしようもないくらい弱くて、きっと普通の女だったら見向きもしないような男の子なんだよ。
I mean, probably. As she spoke, she squeezed the hand that she held her cell phone with.
なのに私の心には楽しかったっていう気持ちがあるの。なのに私の心にはもっと一緒にいたかったっていう気持ちがあるの。この気持ちって何なのかな。
I have no idea. Looking up, she saw the neon-lit night sky. No stars were in sight. For an ephemeral moment, Rimi stood beneath it. A slight smile rose to her face when she received a response.
さてと、そろそろ切るね。本当に大丈夫だって。あなたは何も心配しないで。私が全部決着をつけてくるから。
Okay.
ね、Takumi.
So yeah, she is talking to Takumi. Okay. Oh, fetch me. What a confusing situation. I knew we can't trust anything at this point. Like, we're at the situation where, like, everything could be fake. Alright. We're probably going to end here. I know it's not great because we basically just blended about and I went in lots of rants. But I feel like we're about on the precipice of some pretty insane stuff. I mean, Sua gone missing. We're going to be, like, having things happen with Takumi. Probably getting involved with, like, rescuing Nanami again. Maybe finally getting his D sword. So I think we'll just go ahead and stop here. I did spoil you all with a big one last week, so let's keep this one a little shorter, a little more close to the chest. Remember I said I thought it was going to be a lot more chill? Nah, it's just getting insane. I actually am starting to wonder, like, I wonder how much longer we're going to have in the series, because it feels like we're building towards the big climax, like some big confrontations and, like, what it all will mean. The fact that we now know who Shogun is and that it's Takumi, like the original Takumi, I feel like that's such a huge reveal that wouldn't have been that wouldn't have been shared until we were entering the end game, right? So is that the case? Because if that's the case, this game would be a lot shorter than like something like Steins Gate. However, from what I understand, chaosheadnoah, like there's the original Chaos Head, but Chaos Head was released and it was a lot shorter than the developers wanted, but they like ran out of time or they had limited budget or whatever. And what we're playing, if from what I understand, like correct me if I'm wrong on this, like don't spoil things, but like from what I understand, Chaos Head is this like narrative. It's this boom, story, beginning, end. And then when you're done, when you have the Noah version, you can kind of go back and replay it, but instead you'll get choices. Like this is like and unlike Steins Gate, where Steins Gate was built like a branching tree, where the top of the tree was like the full story and the full like the true ending. But you could take all these different branching paths that would lead you down different endings at different stages. Like as you worked higher and higher up the common route, you could branch off at these key points. So like it had like this expansive narrative tree. I'm wondering if this is going to be an inverse of that, where we basically have a straight shot all the way to the end of the true story, but then we can go back after we've found the true ending and we can access different branches from there and decide and play with like alternate versions or maybe the idea is that we can embrace a full delusion that we actually manifest into like an alternate reality type of situation. But yeah, I think we're going to be here. So I think this is a good place to end. A lot of speculation. I shared a lot of like more of my personal stuff. So this is definitely a like, you're getting a glimpse into my headspace here, which is good. Because instead of just reacting to stuff, this is more me sharing, interpreting, and kind of broaching my own thoughts on stuff. I think it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. Also, like, if I'm right about like my interpretation, like there's a true ending and then there's like branching endings, my plan for the game would probably be like we will cover like the true end at minimum, and if there's branching paths, I'd say maybe we'd cover 2 of them. It depends on how many there are as well. If there's only 2 or 3, I might cover just 1. Because my principal rule is that if I have an option to not showcase everything in a game, I won't. But I'm also not going to do an incomplete storytell. Like, I want to see it through to an end, and that stops me from playing certain games. So a good example is Clannad. Clannad is a game that a lot of people love. I pretty much can guarantee you I would love it, because I like based on just the bare minimum that I learned, because I haven't watched any anime or anything, so I don't know like anything about that series besides like a few bits and pieces. I can already tell you, I really know I'd probably love that game, but I won't play it because the publishers are adamant that you don't stream or post like content about it beyond a certain point in the game. Now that point in the game is supposed to be like 10 hours in, but it's like the end of chapter 4 or something out of like 12 chapters. And like that's where you can't showcase anymore. And the thing is like that for me that doesn't feel fulfilling, because you imagine us playing like that far into the game and then just cutting it off and never going any further, and maybe at that point I could do like a review where I could talk about it. That doesn't seem like much fun, because the whole point is being able to share the journey and be able to kind of showcase like how I feel throughout the entire thing. So I'm holding off. Maybe one of the best things about my channel growing, if I could get it to grow big enough, is like ideally I'd be able to eventually reach out and be like, hey, can we consider changing this up a bit? Can we let people showcase their feelings, especially with a game that's been out this long? Like, let people share their journey here. Let the game be able to shine, even if it means, in your opinion, that you're making less sales, which, I don't know. If you're watching this and you never played the Chaos Head, like, I honestly, if you're not even going to be able to play, if you decide you don't want to play, you'd rather just watch it, can we at least support the developers? Maybe, like, wait for it goes sales on Steam or something, but make a purchase? Like, I'm not going to tell you what to do. Frankly, we're not going to get more visual novels if visual novels can't be a successful medium of game development. So we should support them when they're around, and we should especially support the developers of games that we really like. I obviously everyone's got their own circumstances. You do whatever you got to do, but my argument is always that hey, if you're watching a series and you like what you see, play it yourself, and then we can compare notes as we go. But ultimately, that comes back to this idea that I don't want developers of visual novels with such a heavy narrative game to feel like content creators are the enemy, or that we're somehow going to cheapen or remove market pull for their games. Which is why I limit myself purposefully. I don't cover everything on the channel. I'll talk about everything, but I won't showcase it all because I want to make sure that even if someone is watching my gameplay and like my series and never played the game, that there's more for them to discover if they're willing to play it themselves. Anyway, I don't know why that came up this time, but it's just a heads up and that's kind of like the philosophy behind that. I definitely talked about it before, but you'll hear it again and again if you stick around long enough. It's meaningful to me, and it comes up. So, anyway, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate each and every one of you. I hope you had a good time. I hope you're interested to see what happens next. I certainly am, and I'm really excited to see where this goes, especially Suwa. Suwa being captured at the hospital is interesting. I didn't think that would be a move that Shogun would make, but it feels like it's the biggest thing is bad. It's getting too close to like important information, and if that's the case, why now? Why stop him now? Why not before? I guess they've been doing the harassment campaign with like people like following him around, mentioning his name, the kind of the group, the mob like stalking, and then the phone calls. Like obviously someone's been trying to stop him, but now it's like they're getting super involved in kidnapping like his understudy. Like that's crazy. I'm really interested to see where that's gonna like pan out and how it's gonna like end. But yeah. We'll have to wait and see. So, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for being a part of this wonderful journey and being able to, I don't know, be here. Especially if you're a patron and member. Like, I don't deserve you because, like, not only are you here supporting the channel in one of the most meaningful ways, which is watching the video, but you also are directly supporting me. I just want to make sure I'm making content that's good enough to be worthy of that. I want to make content better. I want to make it as consistently as possible. And while my life's gotten busier because I'm working full time, like at a pretty good but demanding job, I don't want it to feel like my ability to make content falters too much. I'm doing the best I can, but you know, there's only so much I can do. But I appreciate you anyway, and I appreciate the time and your willingness to work with me on this stuff. Thank you so much for being here. And until the next video, watching me or happen to see me in next, I'll see you there.